All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be diving deep into, well, a topic that's pretty close to my heart and hopefully your wallet too. We're talking about green business tax reliefs. Yeah, now I know taxes, they're not, usually the most thrilling thing to talk about. But trust me, this deep dive, this is about uncovering opportunities, not just focusing on the obligations. We're talking about how making your business more eco-friendly, going green, as they say, can actually put money back in your pocket. So for our roadmap today, we're going straight to the source. And by that, I mean, we've got this fantastic blog post from a UK accounting firm, Fresh, dated February 8th, 2025. So we're talking really up-to-date information here. And we'll be zeroing in on some key areas: EV charging, solar panels, and just general eco upgrades you can make to your business. All these areas, well, they're just ripe with potential savings. That's what we're going to uncover.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about saving money. It's about getting your business in line with a global shift, a movement towards sustainability. Understanding these tax reliefs, I've got to say, it can be a real game changer for companies. It's about making a positive impact, doing well by doing good.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Doing well by doing good. So let's start with a why here. Why is going green such a big deal for businesses, especially right now?
Well, one of the things that really jumped out at me from this blog post was this stat that 77%, huge number, 77% of consumers out there, they're actively seeking out sustainable brands. It's not just a niche thing anymore, It's something people really expect.
Wow, 77%. That's honestly a lot bigger than I thought. So what you're saying is, if a business isn't on that sustainability train, they could be missing out on a whole bunch of customers.
You hit the nail on the head, and it goes beyond just attracting customers. You've got governments stepping in, too, setting stricter regulations to lower emissions. Especially here in the UK, with those ambitious net zero targets, they're really pushing for change.
Right, and you can't forget the whole energy cost thing. They're just going up and up. So going green, it can actually help businesses save money on those energy bills in the long run. I mean, am I right? It's a triple win here.
Yeah.
Good for the planet, good for your reputation, and good for your bottom line.
Exactly. A triple win. I like that. And that's precisely where these tax reliefs come into play. They're designed to make these green investments, even more appealing, financially.
All right, so we've established going green. It's a smart move. But now let's get into the nuts and bolts, the details of the actual UK tax incentives.
Yeah, think of it, like a toolbox. But instead of hammers and screwdrivers, it's filled with, instruments designed to lighten that financial burden of going green. We're talking deductions, credits, reduced VAT rates. All these things are aimed at making those sustainable choices more, more accessible for businesses.
Sounds like my kind of toolbox.
Yeah.
So what's the first tool we should grab?
Well, if you're a business and you're thinking about installing EV charging points, one of the most powerful tools you've got is the Enhanced Capital Allowances, or ECAs for short. This allows for, get this, a 100% first-year allowance.
Okay, so hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting this straight. If I invest, let's say, £5,000 in an EV charger for my business, I can deduct that entire amount from my taxable profits that same year.
You got it. It really makes a difference to your tax bill, especially in the year you make the investment. And it just makes it much easier to get those charging points up and running.
That is a seriously good incentive. What else have we got in this toolbox?
Okay, here's another standout. The super deduction. Now, this one applies to a wider range of those energy-efficient upgrades. And get this, businesses can deduct a whopping 130% of the cost from their taxable profits. It's really something.
Wait, 130%? Okay, how does that even work? I mean, you're deducting more than the actual cost, right?
It's the government's way of, I guess you could say, supercharging that investment in energy efficiency. So essentially, for every £100 you spend, you get to deduct £130 from your profits. I mean, that's serious tax saving.
Okay, that sounds almost too good to be true. Is there a catch?
Not really. It just shows how seriously the UK government is taking those net zero ambitions. They're really putting their money where their mouth is with these initiatives, making them as attractive as possible for businesses.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So we've got the ECA for EV charging. We've got the super deduction for those broader energy-efficient upgrades. What other tools are hiding in this sustainability toolkit of ours?
All right, so for businesses who are thinking about, installing EV charging, but for their employees, there's something called the Workplace Charging Scheme. WCS, that's the acronym. And this scheme, it provides grants that can cover up to 75% of the installation costs of those EV charge points.
Hold up, 75%. So let's say those installation costs come out to £4,000. A business could get, what, £3,000 back? And that's on top of the first-year allowance benefit.
You got it. It's a fantastic way to, really bring down those upfront costs of setting up all that EV charging infrastructure.
Okay, that is incredible. And I'm remembering now there was something about solar panels, right? Some pretty sweet incentives for those too.
Absolutely. Solar energy, it's another area with, well, some really fantastic tax benefits. Installing solar panels, I mean, it's a great way for businesses to shrink those energy bills, get a little bit of energy independence, and of course, do their part for a more sustainable future.
And what about that 0% VAT rate, right? That's a game changer, especially for such a big investment.
Oh, it absolutely is. That alone can save businesses, a significant amount of money up front. Just to give you an idea, let's say a company invests £20,000 to get those solar panels installed. Normally, they'd have to pay another £4,000 in VAT on top of that. But with that 0% rate, boom, that £4,000 stays right where it belongs in their pocket.
And that's money they can, I don't know, pump back into the business, use it to cover other costs.
Yeah, exactly. Now, remember those enhanced capital allowances we talked about earlier? Well, guess what? Solar panels, they count as energy-efficient equipment.
Wait, so on top of the VAT savings, they can deduct the entire cost of those solar panels from their taxable income too.
You got it. It's really impressive. So in that £20,000 example we were talking about, the ECA would reduce their taxable profits by £20,000. That means a tax saving of £3,800 at the current corporation tax rate.
Hold on, let me get this straight. £4,000 saved from the 0% VAT, plus another £3,800 in tax savings because of the ECA. So that's almost £8,000 in total savings, right? It's almost like they're getting paid to go solar.
It really is a pretty remarkable incentive, wouldn't you say? It shows just how committed the UK government is to promoting renewable energy.
Okay, so we've got that 0% VAT and the ECA for solar panels. Anything else we should be aware of?
Yes, there's one more thing to highlight here. Businesses that are using solar energy, well, they can also benefit from what's called climate change levy exemptions, or CCL for short.
Right, we talked about that earlier. So they're using less energy overall, and then they get a break on the taxes associated with energy use on top of that. Talk about a win-win situation.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning, the U.S., they have a similar incentive. It's called the Solar Investment Tax Credit, or SITC. It seems like governments all over the world are really getting on board with this whole solar energy thing.
It's pretty encouraging to see, that kind of global momentum building.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. EV charging, solar panels, all these amazing incentives. But what about those businesses that aren't quite ready to make, those big leaps? Are there any benefits, any tax benefits for smaller scale eco upgrades?
You bet. There's actually a whole set of incentives geared towards businesses that are looking to, implement those more gradual changes, those smaller steps towards sustainability. And one of the, I guess you could say, most versatile tools in that set, it's our old friend, the super deduction.
Oh, right. So it's not just for those big EV charging installations and solar panel systems.
Oh, not at all. That super deduction applies to a pretty wide range of energy-efficient upgrades.
Right.
Think LED lighting, insulation, getting a more efficient heating system, anything that can help cut down a building's energy use. So businesses can upgrade their facilities, shrink those energy bills, and get a nice big tax break all at the same time. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal to me. Okay, so what about those other options? What can a business do if they want to, take those smaller steps towards sustainability? What else is out there?
Well, there's this program called the Green Investment Tax Relief, or GITR if you like acronyms. This scheme, it gives tax relief to companies that are investing in assets that, contribute to those environmental objectives.
Okay, GITR. So what kind of assets are we talking about here?
It covers a pretty broad range of investments, actually. We're talking energy-efficient equipment, waste management systems, even certain types of vehicles. It's a bit more specialized than the super deduction, but for businesses that want to make those very specific green investments, it can be a really valuable tool.
Got it. So if a company wants to, let's say, invest in a new fleet of electric delivery vans, GITR could be a good option for them.
You got it. It's a great way to reduce that tax burden that comes with, making those environmentally conscious choices. And then you've got the research and development tax credits, or R&D for short.
Oh, yeah. R&D tax credits. Those are for those really innovative companies, right?
Exactly. They're especially relevant for businesses that are, really pushing the boundaries of sustainable tech and processes. So, for example, if a company is developing a brand new green technology or coming up with a totally groundbreaking approach to waste reduction, they could potentially get funding support for their research through those R&D tax credits.
So it's not just about implementing existing green solutions. It's about encouraging businesses to come up with new ones.
You got it. The government's actively supporting innovation when it comes to sustainability. And of course, we can't forget about those climate change levy exemptions we talked about earlier. Even if a business isn't ready for for a complete overhaul, just using renewable energy sources however they can lead to a smaller tax bill.
It seems like every step a business takes towards sustainability, no matter how big or small, they're rewarded with some kind of financial incentive.
It really is a pretty remarkable time to be embracing sustainability. All the tools and resources are out there, and the financial benefits, well, those are undeniable.
Okay, so we've definitely explored our fair share of tax benefits today, benefits for green businesses, and it's incredibly encouraging, honestly. But I have to admit, just the thought of actually applying for all these reliefs and schemes, it seems, well, a little overwhelming. Where does a business even start?
I get it. It's totally understandable to feel a bit overwhelmed. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts, right? But the process itself, it's not actually as complicated as it might seem at first glance. And the rewards, well, let's just say, they're definitely worth the effort.
Okay, that's good to hear. So break it down for us. What's the first step a business should take?
First things first, you've got to figure out which of those green upgrades are actually eligible for the tax relief. We've gone over a lot today, but the specifics can vary, so it's always best to do your homework, your research, and really make sure you understand the ins and outs, the requirements for each scheme.
Got it. Research first. That's always solid advice. What comes after that?
Once you've got a handle on the upgrades you're looking at, it's time to dive into those government schemes themselves. We're talking workplace charging scheme, super deduction, enhanced capital allowances. They all have, specific eligibility criteria and those application processes. The good news is most of that information is readily available. You can find it on those government websites.
Okay, so I've done my research. I've got a good grasp of the schemes. What's next? What's the next step in the process?
Time to submit those tax relief claims. HMRC, they've got a dedicated online portal for all this, which makes the whole process a lot smoother, I've got to say.
Oh, okay, an online portal. That sounds manageable. Anything else businesses should keep in mind while they're doing all this?
It's always a good idea to chat with an accountant, especially if you're dealing with, those more complex tax situations. They can walk you through all the finer points of each scheme, make sure you're getting the most out of those benefits, and help you avoid any potential hiccups along the way.
Right, an accountant, they're like your guide through the tax jungle.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling accountants are about to be very popular as businesses rush to go green.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It's definitely an exciting time to be in this whole sustainability space. And accountants, well, they play a key role in helping businesses seize those financial opportunities.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about why going green is so important. We dove into all those amazing tax benefits that are out there. And we demystified that whole process of actually applying for these reliefs. But like you mentioned earlier, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the future of green tax reliefs? What's on the horizon?
It really does feel like there's so much more to explore, doesn't it?
It does. So what are you seeing out there that might give us a clue about how these incentives could evolve?
Well, the blog post we're looking at, it hints at some pretty interesting things. For one, we might see those grants for green tech. They could get even bigger, even more generous, and maybe, just maybe, they'll expand beyond just EV charging. We might see them covering a whole range of sustainable investments.
So imagine this. Grants for equipment that makes manufacturing more energy efficient, grants for sustainable packaging solutions, maybe even grants for green building materials. The possibilities are endless.
Exactly. And there's been a lot of talk lately about strengthening those incentives for buildings that are carbon neutral.
Oh, yeah, that would be a game changer. Imagine if you got tax breaks for putting up new buildings that use sustainable materials, or even rewards for taking those older buildings and retrofitting them so they're more energy efficient. That could transform the whole construction industry.
Absolutely. And it aligns perfectly with those net zero goals the UK is aiming for. We could also see those tax deductions for sustainable investments. Well, they could get even bigger across the board.
It sounds like the government is really serious about this whole greener future thing. It's great to see that level of commitment.
It really is. And it's not just the governments that are pushing for change. Consumers, they're demanding more sustainable products and services. And even investors, they're actively looking for those companies that have strong environmental track records.
It's a win-win all around. Businesses can reduce their impact on the environment, boost their reputation, and improve their bottom line at the same time. It really is a win-win no matter how you look at it.
You said it. It's like the perfect opportunity, especially for those businesses that are ready to embrace sustainability.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. For our listeners out there who are thinking, all right, I'm ready to jump on this whole green innovation train, what's the biggest takeaway, the most important thing for them to remember?
I think the key takeaway here is that taking advantage of these tax reliefs, it's not just about being a responsible business, it's about making smart financial decisions. It's about doing something that benefits your company and the planet, at the same time.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's not even a question anymore of if a business should go green. It's about figuring out how to do it in the most strategic way possible, in a way that makes financial sense.
And the great thing is the resources, they're out there to support businesses every step of the way.
So to all those listeners out there, I've got one message for you. Don't wait. Start looking into these amazing opportunities today. Go do your research, check out those specific incentives we talked about, maybe even give a shout to a knowledgeable accountant, and then start brainstorming. Figure out how your business can become a part of this green revolution. And here's a thought for you to chew on. What if your business could come up with, I don't know, some groundbreaking green initiative, something that not only helps the environment, but could also unlock some serious tax savings? What did that look like for you? What kind of positive impact could you make?
The potential, it's huge. Businesses have such an amazing opportunity to really drive positive change. And these tax incentives, they're here to help make it happen.
That's a fantastic point to end on. And don't forget, all those resources and links we mentioned, you can find them in the show notes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of green business tax reliefs. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep on diving deep.
It really does feel like, we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to uncover.
Totally. So, looking ahead, what trends, are you seeing out there that might give us a clue about where these incentives are headed in the future?
Well, this blog post, it hints at a few interesting things. For one, we could see those grants for green technologies. They could get even bigger, maybe even more generous than they are now. And they might even go beyond just EV charging,
Okay, I like where this is going.
We might start seeing them cover a wider range of sustainable investments.
So picture this. Grants for manufacturing equipment, but the energy efficient kind. Or grants for businesses that are using, sustainable packaging. Maybe even grants for those companies that are using green building materials.
Right.
There's so many possibilities.
Exactly. And, there's been this whole discussion lately about those incentives for buildings, for making them carbon neutral.
Oh, yeah, that would be huge.
Imagine, tax breaks for building brand new structures, but using those sustainable materials. Or maybe even rewards for taking those older buildings and retrofitting them, making them more energy efficient.
That would totally change the game for the whole construction industry.
It would, and it would fit right in with the UK's goal of reaching net zero emissions. And on top of that, we might even see those tax deductions for sustainable investments. Well, those could get a boost too, across the board.
It sounds like the government's really putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to this greener future. It's pretty amazing to see that kind of support, at that level.
It really is. And it's not just governments that are, I guess you could say, leading the charge here. Consumers are becoming more and more, how do I put it, more aware, more demanding of sustainable products and services. And even investors, they're looking for companies that have a good environmental track record. It's becoming a really big deal.
Yeah, it's like this perfect storm of opportunity, especially with those businesses that are ready to embrace sustainability. They get to do something good for the planet, you get to look good doing it, and they even get to boost their bottom line. What's not to love?
You said it. It's a win-win situation, no matter how you look at it.
All right, so let's wrap things up here. For all our listeners out there who are thinking, okay, I'm on board, I'm ready to get in on this whole green innovation thing, what's the big takeaway for them? What's the most important thing to remember?
Well, for me, the key takeaway is this. Taking advantage of these tax reliefs, it's not just about, doing the right thing for the environment. It's about making smart financial decisions, Decisions that are good for your company and good for the planet at the same time.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's not even a question anymore of whether a business should go green. It's all about figuring out how to do it, but in the smartest way possible, in a way that makes sense financially.
And the best part, all the resources are out there. Businesses don't have to do this alone.
So for everyone listening, my message is simple. Don't wait. Get out there and start exploring all these amazing opportunities today. Do your research. Check out all those specific incentives we talked about. Maybe even get in touch with an accountant, someone who knows their stuff, and then start brainstorming. Figure out how your business can become a part of this whole green revolution that's happening. And here's one last thought to leave you with. Just imagine for a second that your business could launch some incredible, groundbreaking green initiative. Something that not only helps the environment, but it also helps you unlock some serious tax savings. I mean, what would that look like for you? What kind of positive impact could you make?
The potential is, well, it's huge. Businesses have such a powerful role to play in driving positive change, and these tax incentives are here to help make it happen.
That's such a great point to end on. And remember, you can find all those links to the resources we mentioned, all that good stuff. You can find it all in the show notes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of green business tax reliefs. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep diving deep.